Having the unique honor of being perhaps the only N64 game to render a round-looking sphere, Kirby 64 is something of a looker. Sure, the polygon budget spent on making Kirby round means you can count the number of triangles that make up the enemies on one hand, but who really cares? The enemies are close enough to their 2D counterparts, and Kirby, with all of his oblivious, childlike charm, is the star of the show anyway, as always. See, Kirby 64, The Crystal Shards, to go by its maiden name, is a bit of a simple game, and not just in terms of graphics. In an era of full 3D upgrades to classic series, Kirby is just kind of a conventional 2D platformer. Graphics are 3D, sure, but come on, this is a 2D platformer. You move left to right and swallow enemies to copy their abilities. It's very Kirby. The big gameplay innovation this time around are the combination abilities. Like the name implies, you combine two different abilities to create a brand new move based on the originals. This is actually really neat, and you can tell the developers spent a lot of time considering what the combinations would make. A fair few seem like jokes, and a lot of them end up annoyingly slowing down your movement or annoyingly removing your ability to float, which is annoying, but some are really interesting. My favorite is easily Burn Bomb, which lets Kirby explode into fireworks. And I think Stone Bomb, where Kirbs throws out dynamite and needs to take cover under his cute little miner helmet, could maybe be the core mechanic of a whole game. The base movement is fairly slow though, and floating is actually painful. Level design is also, basic? It gets a bit better later on, but it's nothing you'll remember level to level. This is probably to accommodate the wide range of attacks you can pull off with the combination abilities, but this also means levels are just basic. Kirby games always are, by design, but when compared to the N64 bigwigs, the simplicity of Kirby stands out. While Mario and Zelda went full 3D, Banjo-Kazooie made huge worlds full of secrets, and Star Fox fulfilled its playable TV show promise. Kirby was content to just be a pretty simple 2D platformer. And you know what? I like it. It's fun. It's fun! Just pottering around and seeing what combos you can make, collecting all the crystal shards, watching the surprisingly lavish cutscenes, just seeing the different level environments, it's a good time. There are a lot of unique visual touches to the levels too. The camera loves to move around Kirby and frame the action from different angles, which is a fun little trick. The background details are where the money's at though. Most of it is what you'd expect, trees and snowmen and whatnot. Sometimes it can be truly bizarre, or sometimes it can even be a cute little sandcastle. Even if no single element is very detailed, again, because the game used all of its graphical power on our round little boy, the constant variety is impressive. Either way, it helps keep the game's momentum up since levels are largely distinct from one another. As usual, Kirby really steals the show. I know, a Kirby game that highlights Kirby? Stop the presses. Yeah, Kirbs is round. Very round, as mentioned. But, in what is truly a sign of God, Hal gave Kirby a texture mouth. It looks so good. There are quite a few cutscenes that make the most of it too. It's nice seeing the classic interstitials from Kirby games of old get the 3D treatment, and they were clearly a priority in Kirby 64. The easy winner being the Desert Desserts cutscene, which is a distractingly intricate eating scene with some weirdly jiggly meat on a bone. The flip side of this is the quote-unquote false ending, which ends on a true spine-tingler of a final frame. Getting to the true final boss isn't too hard either. The game is pretty short in general. The biggest pain are the combo-locked crystal shards, which require a specific ability combination to access. Just ignore these on your first go-round, and use a guide to find the handful that you missed later, while you're still cooling down from that false ending scare. It really won't take long, I promise. The final boss is actually kind of cool. It's a basic behind-the-back shooter, kind of like a Star Fox game, but one that feels much worse. However, we give it a pass because it's a surprising inclusion to this game. You only spent like 40 minutes going back to get those missed crystal shards, so it's not the end of the world it doesn't play great. So, I don't know. I know the game was middling at the time. It was a throwback in an era while other series were stepping forward reinventing themselves in 3D. If you waited 3 years between Dreamland 3 and Kirby 64, I guess you might be a little disappointed the game felt so familiar. But when played 2 decades later, it's just a fun little bippy-boppy Kirby game. You can fully complete it, easy breezy, won't set you in a tizzy too. Even if it didn't revolutionize Kirby, it's still fun. Just spend an afternoon or two chilling out and making Kirby explode into fireworks.